And after a long hiatus from last year, we are back. New name, new co-host to help join, talk, and new year. So 2023. Today is Thursday, March 16th when we're recording. The training camp week is this week. The players have just started to tune in or to turn in, so I figured we should start recording.
Absolutely, I'm very excited to be back and talk about. There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. That was another thing. I started to get that little bit of a sense of urgency. Like, the longer we go without recording an episode, the more we have. And I mean, we could still, if we wanted to just sit down, we could probably talk for, good 6 hours. But
All right.
but hoping to avoid that, we'll use this as kind of a kicking off, kind of more or less do, I think, an overview of the news plus what we got to go. Going forward, next few weeks leading into the season, obviously we'll have more content. We'll continue to go through all the backlog, but yeah, I figured might as well start now.
Yeah. Do we want to reintroduce ourselves or?
Might not be a bad idea. I'm Jake.
I'm Patrick.
And I'm Jack. That's right. There's a new one in here. They left the back door open, so I decided to sneak my way in.
Well, we're very happy to help you.
For those who don't know me, I am the legendary Panthers Claw on Twitter. So, so you've heard me before. Probably haven't heard my voice. So here I am.
Are you sure you're allowed to use the word legendary? Isn't that not trademarked in the USFL community already?
Oh my god.
Look, if there's anything I've learned from the USFL, is that trademarks can very easily be worked around, as it were. If there's anything this past year has taught me.
Very well. We'll see if he's litigious or not, but until then, the legendary Michigan Panthers Claw.
Do we want to start with the biggest, most obvious one?
I was going to say it. You read my mind. Jeff Fisher.
Well, yeah, I guess that too, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, the hub.
No, we can start with Jeff Fisher.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. No, he didn't.
No. He just determined that Great Lakes fishing was not optimal for him.
Hey, I don't blame him. Go into those Smoky Mountains, do some fishing around there, stay in Tennessee, spend time with family.
Are you saying Jeff Fisher is going to go fishing?
He's got the name for it.
I had to. I'm sorry. But yeah, no, I'm not surprised, but at the same time, I kind of am. For being the spring league, you'd think they'd at least have some consistency, I guess. And so the fact that I guess the fact that they recognize, like, hey, I can't remember. Was it his decision or the Panthers' decision to move on?
No,
from what we understand, it was his. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, from what we understand, he approached the league.
Yeah, the official word from the league is that he approached them in late January, with just that he wasn't it, like he wasn't where he needed to be, and he wanted to, go leave football again and retire and spend more time with family, and that makes perfect sense. He's had spent quite a long time in and around football. And it seems like he's more drawn to kind of doing a little bit of coaching, like say with the NFLPA, the Collegiate Bowl. Like he really enjoys that. I think the USFL was just a little too much, and honestly, I kind of got that sense from him last year with the way that the team underperformed, in my opinion, and just the overall, just the feeling that I got, just kind of the optics. It just didn't look like he was fully into it. So this move honestly did not surprise me. I wasn't expecting it, but it was definitely something I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that tracks.
I'll say though about this being like possibly like a little bit more than we'd expect in terms of coach turnover. Considering the fact that that this is the first time we've seen a spring league come back for another season since
True.
the original USFL, we really had no precedent of how high the coach turnover is going to be.
Yeah,
I think
that's a very good point.
So I think going into we'll start seeing like, is this what we're going to expect as the norm, or is it going to be a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower? Who knows? Because we're not the only team that got a new coach. I think it's about half the league got a new coach this year. Breaker got rid of Larry Fedora in favor of John DeFilippo. Gamblers parted ways with Kevin Sumlin in favor of he's the one guy who's escaping me right now. Oh goodness.
Yeah, I was trying to think too because I'm like,
Curtis,
I don't even remember. Curtis Johnson.
Curtis Johnson, yes, that's who it is. And then obviously the Pittsburgh Maulers swapped
Pizzagate,
out
Pizza
Kirby
Man.
Wilson. With Ray Horton Horton.
Which
and
that
well,
with Horton, that's an interesting hire. Like I think that that might be my favorite hire that the league has had outside of what they've done with the Panthers. So like that'll be one I don't think the Maulers are going to be quite the same pushovers as they were last year. But then as you were leading into.
Yeah, and finally bringing it back to the Panthers here. Out goes Jeff Fisher, and in comes another former NFL head coach, one Mike Nolan. Most notable for his time with the 49ers, being the last NFL head coach to wear a three-piece suit. Is probably what most people remember him for.
Yeah,
he's already confirmed he won't be doing that.
Yeah, sadly, because I was looking forward to it. Like, there wasn't going to be that whole drama with the NFL having to strike a deal with Reebok and have them make suits for him to wear in order for him to have the suits on the sideline. But I was looking forward to him being in the three-piece suit. All of the graphics that I've been doing have been centered around him in that three-piece suit, so it's going to be a little disappointing that we won't get to see that, but hopefully the style that a suit exudes is going to be displayed on the field instead in terms of some flashy good football.
Yeah, and obviously he's going to bring in a lot more of a defensive mind to the Panthers. And something I think that was really interesting about kind of like looking at the coaching staff that I got a few days ago was obviously the big keeper from the Fisher admin was we kept offensive coordinator Eric Marty, and like Marty, he had a really good offense. It's just like with a lot of things last year, just couldn't put it together to actually win games. Those one possession losses into one possession wins.
Yeah, it didn't help that our defense, while I don't think the worst in the league, it's certainly towards the end of the year when the offense started to click, started to be able to get yards and get points, the defense started to break down a little bit. At least that, from my recollection, I know I started drinking a little more heavily with the game, certainly in the last half of the year. So it might be a little fuzzy on that, but no, like you said, he had actually quite the potent offense. I'm trying to find the numbers again because I know I had
He
done that
he
graphic, so
had
I'm trying to
the
pull that
top.
up.
He had the passing offense in the league last year in terms of raw yardage. It doesn't show up in the
Yes.
player stats because we used like 4 different quarterbacks. But still, like
Yep.
as a unit, we have the best passing offense and one of the better rushing units in the league. Obviously, our
Yeah.
rushing unit had a lot more centered around just Reggie Corbin and a little bit of Stevie Scott.
Yeah,
But
like I said, you would
yeah,
think you wouldn't believe it by the record of 2-8, but yeah, number one offense, passing offense in terms of yards per game, number two in total yards per game, and still top four, number four in points per game. So, after all said and done, after that, after the regular season, we had the ability to put points on the board. It just wasn't enough. And I mean, we were all in most of the games. There were only, two games that we weren't in it, at least, not by the end with the two losses to the Generals, or sorry, not General, but the Stallions, and then the second game against the Stars. Those were the only ones that we lost by double digits. Everything else was a one score game
yeah,
in our other six losses. And we had the ball at to finish out the game, last ditch effort, except for the Bandits. We had that Scarlet fumble, and then the Bandits were able to run out the clock. But I think like the other five, or at least four of the other five,
yeah, because it
we
was
had the
because
ball
two
and
of them,
we were driving.
yeah, two of them were failed Hail Marys. One of which literally just came down to the USFL's 2 feet in bounds rule. Um, Legit, if that was 1 foot in bounds, we would have beaten the Gamblers.
Yep.
Generals, we just missed. First
Yep.
Stars game, I don't want to talk about. If I
Legendary
remember
Fisher,
correctly,
clock management, game management there. Yeah.
yeah, and then if I remember correctly, the Breakers we took to overtime, and then
Yes.
just completely forgot how to play in overtime. And then the other Generals game, which was just kind of it was the least eventful one score loss of the bunch.
Well, I mean, that was the game that we saw Barrier play, and he did well in replacing Love, and yeah, he just threw that end of the game interception while we were driving, which
Yeah,
as a true rookie like that, he played really good. As I've kind of pointed out, like he was the first rookie, at least that I can think of, at least quarterback to play in a game, regulation even faster than any NFL rookies did. Like all of the NFL rookies didn't play their first like actual game snap until September, and here we have Barrier doing it in what, the end of May, beginning of June. I think it was beginning of June. So for that quick of a turnaround for being a pure rookie, I was actually quite impressed. But ultimately, that didn't matter. But yeah, close
yeah,
games
he's
is
still
what
on the
we had
roster.
last year.
Yeah, yeah, just it was an issue of couldn't quite seal the deal in really any game. The only time the only game that I say that we really kind of stepped on and won was that last game against Colors for the first overall pick. But by that point, all was pretty much meaningless apart from just let's not lose the Maulers here.
Yeah, I mean, and we got to that was like the last competent game that we've seen out of Paxton Lynch before
Yeah,
he went to the XFL. So he had a couple of good
yeah, that
games, both of those games against the Maulers. It'll be interesting because we do not have
yeah,
this year. We start the season with quarterbacks that did not that were not on the roster to start last season.
yeah, yeah. We don't have any. I mean, a lot of the team we don't really have a lot of answers to. Lance Lenore is not on the team. Obviously, our quarterbacks aren't there. But we have a very solid core to build off of.
Yeah, by my
compared
count,
to
I think we only.
Hmm?
By my count, I think we only have 12 members that saw the field last year, or that were on the roster before the end of the season. So yeah, we're down to just the core, but obviously that core includes. I think they were gonna say like our quarterbacks.
Yeah, and obviously the biggest returner this year, Reggie Corbin, who I think it's safe to say the league's wanting to make him into a star.
I mean, I
Just,
don't whether or not the league wants to make him into a star. He's damn sure going to make sure he does it
yeah,
himself.
I mean, he's been like the player representative on all like local media coverage of the Panthers. Like he's been the go-to guy. It's been either him or Mike Nolan that I've been seeing on press coverage.
Yeah, absolutely. The only all USFL player on the Panthers, plus, I think the Big Ten familiarity. While he didn't play in a Michigan school, he was at Illinois, but still that Big Ten familiarity. Yeah, being the biggest star for sure on the Panthers. I think they're happy that he's returned. Yeah. That's for sure.
That they definitely are.
But with that digression, the rest of the coaching staff is brand new though. Our new O-line coach, we lost Neil Kellaway. From my guess, with him being picked up by the Stallions this year, I'm going to assume that he didn't just leave the Panthers under his own will. I'm going to assume that he got fired because I think that's the explanation that he'd be then come back around to the league by being picked up by the Stallions. But in his place, we have long-time coach who spent a lot of time in the NFL coaching O-line and O-line assistant in Tim Holt. So that one I'm super excited about. We apparently love to steal from why am I blinking now on the school where
Monmouth?
Runza and Monmouth, yeah. Looks like we had taken a couple of their coaches, some of their younger guys in Coach Runza and Coach Bauer, or Towson. They're both from Towson.
Yeah.
And they were just coached together last year, so they come and join in with the rest of the new staff.
And of course, the other big addition over the past offseason, every team got a GM this year. And ours is Mr. Steve Kazor, formerly of the LA Rams, I think he worked with.
I think they were the DPPs last year, the Director of Player Personnel, and then they all got their upgrade, their promotion to GM. So
yeah,
definitely a bigger role.
Yeah, and I think Kazor is like a new guy to. Yeah, he is new to the Panthers organization because before that he was with the Rams as a scout primarily. So he was probably a guy that Jeff Fisher pulled up and brought in.
Yeah, because he was like you said, he was with he was a scout with the Rams until 2002 or 22. And yeah, he definitely was the scout when Fisher was with the Rams. So that's probably probably how we end up getting that connection. So even though Fisher has left us, we still have a piece of him being left behind.
Yeah, and also this is not his first rodeo here in Detroit either. He was a positional coach for the Lions in the mid '90s, and in the early 2000s, he was the head coach of the Green and Gold Warriors of Wayne State University, which is literally their stadium is about say about 5 minutes from Ford Field.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's great to be able to have that familiarity, because unfortunately our coaching staff, from what I remember, doesn't. But having Steve with that connection is definitely going to help be able to tie in with Detroit, which is very important, because Detroit is definitely one of those cities with that identity that we really need to tap into.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, it'll be a lot easier this year as the Panthers, they'll be here in Detroit.
Yeah, that's very exciting. The Detroit has been named a third hub, so Detroit and Philadelphia are going to be, or Michigan Panthers and Philadelphia are going to be playing there, calling it home.
Which I got to go to that presser, which was the league. I'll just say this: really went out in that event. The setup was fantastic. Everything was great, and I think that's probably a big testament to just how much they want to show out for Detroit, because they believe that Detroit is a really great spot for the USFL and for the Panthers to be able to play and bring that passion from Detroit and infuse that into the league. And I think that that goes a long way to show that.
Yeah, and I mean this is just keeps one of the biggest complaints about last year was having everything in one hub and everything in one area. So so the fact that this is another step closer to having teams and cities, and because that I mentioned 3 hubs. So first we just had Birmingham, now we have Birmingham, Detroit, and what's the third city? I'm blanking. Why am I blanking?
Memphis.
Thank you.
And Canton are the other 2.
Yeah, okay. So we have 4. We have 4.
Oh, we have 4 hubs. That's right.
Yes.
I completely forgot about Memphis, because now we added the Memphis Showboats too.
Yep, move the Bandits up north to Memphis. So you get the Memphis Showboats and the Houston Gamblers in Memphis. They'll be playing at Liberty Stadium, Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. That was what Mr. Smith, the FedEx exec, called them up and basically told the league that he wanted a team in Memphis, and league made it happen. So that right there is another great sign too, because I know the league eventually wants to sell these teams off to private ownership, and I think having a big name like that coming in and helping bring a team to the city is a good sign. Then of course,
and
like
obviously,
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, here for Michigan too, we also got a pretty big name helping bail the Panthers operation, with them giving special thanks at the press conference to one Mr. Dan Gilbert.
Oh yeah, that's which he's been involved with for a lot in downtown Detroit for sure. I mean, and then also just the Tigers. Does he own?
He owns the Cavaliers in Cleveland.
Okay.
And this isn't even his first foray into football. He used to own the Cleveland Gladiators of the Arena Football League a few years ago. And he was looking to bring him back, but then the AFL kind of died. So the Panthers, obviously, a very enticing way for him to bring football into another city that, while he has a very big financial interest in, he doesn't have quite as big of a sporting interest. The only things he really has up here is that I think he has a sponsorship deal with state basketball, and he has the Rocket Mortgage Classic, which is the golf tournament here. Right. But beyond that, he doesn't really have anything.
Right, but yeah, he obviously cares about bringing the sports back, and I believe they also had thought or thanked Big Gretsch. So Whitmer was even involved in bringing the USFL into Michigan. So It was definitely a big collaboration, and I believe the ticket ticket dude Brett Zlasky had mentioned in a interview with Zach of USFL podcast that even the Pistons they were doing stuff with the Pistons, and we kind of got to see a little bit of that with Pablo being at LCA
Oh yeah.
and had that little display, that little event there for for the Panthers and the
Yeah.
USFL. So it seems like a lot of Detroit is coming in to really embrace this. So that's great. Love it. And I know like people were convinced that like Philly was going to be the best spot to have a North Hub. I always felt that, Detroit was the better option. I don't know how much of that was bias, probably quite a bit of it, but like seeing the embracing, like the social media following that the Panthers got, and part of that was definitely Fisher, but a lot of it, I think that get some football in Michigan, and people were wanting it. I know Tony Paul of the Detroit News had said that, at least especially at the beginning of the season, there were definitely requests and interest for coverage of the Panthers, but obviously, as
Yeah.
we all know, them playing in Birmingham and also the 2-8 record, that kind of kills some of the momentum, kills some of the mojo, but obviously there was enough to justify bringing them to Michigan, and I got my season tickets.
Yeah.
Don't know about you two.
Not yet, but I'm definitely looking at tickets for now, and I mean the fact that too is like Ford Field's just a great venue in general, and so the fact that tickets are super affordable is going to be awesome. Just for anyone in the area who's like, oh, I'll catch a football game for 10, 20, $10 for nosebleeds, 25 for pretty good, great seats, 40 if you really want to go fancy. And
Well,
so
I
it's like,
mean,
well,
the $10 still gets you in the lower bowl sideline.
exactly. I say nosebleeds in quotes because you're not going to be on the upper bowl,
Yeah.
but
Well, even then, like they know they initially called those end zone seats, but now they're reframing them as corner seats, which they really are, because you're not sitting in the back of the end zone. You're not sitting behind the goalpost. You are right there, the corner, right next to the goal line, and that for single game tickets for $10, or if you wanted to go to and go the season ticket route, that comes down to $5 a game, and that's not even counting the quote unquote free tickets to the other Stars games as well.
right,
So
Yeah.
exactly.
yeah, the
Yeah,
league
Yeah, like
outdid
they're
themselves with the prices.
Oh yeah, no, because like I remember I did the calculations. I posted them in PFN a little while ago. Even like if you were to count all 9 games that are going to be hosted at Ford Field this year, the most expensive season ticket package, which is the club seats, $100 for 9 games, that still outdoes everything else in Detroit. That
Oh,
outdoes the Tigers. It
yeah,
outdoes Detroit City FC. It even outdoes the United Shore League, which is a small independent league out Utica. So the Panthers really have undercut the entire market. Um, just just through the pricing model. And obviously, they've said already that they're going to come out with, more deals for, families, you know, buy 4 tickets, get, I don't know, two Coney dogs and a couple of pops or whatever. You get like some really good deals like that going.
right. Yeah, so I mean the fact that too, like, and so that it's on top of that, like now it's a super cheap day, cheap day to go hang out, get some lunch somewhere, and go to go get a cheap ticket for the football game and have a fun time. Like it's incredible.
And I know that they were also talking more USFL appropriate concession prices too. So, like if you've been to Lions games and the ticket price or the concession prices there, they should be reduced for these games too. So not only is the league offering these tickets for ridiculously low prices, concessions should be more affordable than you would expect for or that you would see at a Lions game. So all around, like there really is not any excuse to not go to any games. And instead, I got myself just for the hell of it. I got 5 season tickets, right there on the 50, just simply because I was paying that for an end zone seat, a single seat, season ticket for U of M. So, like the fact that I can do in the dome at right in the 50 lower bowl. I couldn't pass it up for 5 to be able to do that for the same price, if not actually less than. So it was no brainer for me. And hopefully be able to continue to have this going forward for for years to come, and then my tickets will hopefully be enviable one day.
Right.
Yeah. Get those ticket stubs, for like first time the Panthers are coming back, because obviously they've also said in the USFL server, they're looking to even bring in like NFT benefits because they had those last year. I think you and I have and like they're now looking to expand them more into like IRL benefits for this upcoming season, which I think will be really cool.
I mean, I had IRL benefits from those last year. Remember? Well, you did too. You got the $30 off the store. I did as well. And then they were also offering free tickets to the playoff games and the championship game. Didn't end up making it down to Canton for the semifinal games, for the North and South semifinals, but I did take advantage of the free tickets for the championship game, which was fantastic event. Canton really showed up. Everybody showed up. It was really well done, and the fact that I got to do that for no cost to me, and granted, the tickets weren't they weren't super expensive. They were like what, $20 a head. So 2 tickets, I saved $40, but still for a free NFT that I got, that's a pretty nice perk.
Yeah, because the USFL, I think, has done a really good job throughout this first year and a half or so of just really rewarding the loyalty of the fan base that's stuck around. It's like, because how we got these things were basically just we claimed the perk the first week of the year last year, and they gave it to us for free, and from there down the line, you get free merch, free this and that. And obviously, now with stuff happening here in Detroit and in Memphis and in Canton, the sky's the limit for what they do, and what can be possible. Having like a little holder, season ticket holder, get-togethers at like little restaurants at the area, possibly even having watch parties. I know the XFL is already looking at doing that with DC this week. For the game against the Battlehawks, they're having a watch party, so that's always like I think just really good. And the USFL, it has a very high ceiling for season 2.
Absolutely, I think as we saw last year with the reception of the empty stadiums, the league. I think that's probably part of why we see such great ticket prices today. For 2023 is the simple fact that they showed that last year ticket revenue was not a big factor, and I don't think it's a big factor for them again this year. Again, as evidenced by the low prices, but also the fact that they want to stack people into stadiums for the home games and be able to get get that attendance for the viewership, which makes sense for me. Like, I'll even admit, for me, with the no fans in the stands, that did make it hard to enjoy the game. Sometimes it felt like it was just a glorified, scrimmage game, just a joint practice. So being able to see more fans in the stands will definitely have an impact. Granted, I still enjoyed it, but I can see where it was a turnoff for a lot of people. And yeah, they're definitely looking to fix that this year. And hopefully they, like you said, they can, jump on that train and, get people more excited with fan meetups and watch parties. That would be another thing. I haven't seen any evidence of that, but I'm hoping that they do that. There's still time.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing for me is like, yeah, I wasn't quite the full negative Nancy, but I was definitely leaning towards that. Where it was kind of hard to watch. It was like, well, okay, cool, but but I understood their vision and their business plan. So the fact that's paying off, and hopefully it will continue to pay off. Get fans in the seats, get more and more viewership. Now that people are seeing fans in the seats, and again to your point, these cheap ticket prices for now. Who knows in the future when if this continues, they'll be like, oh well, you know now tickets are more expensive because it's more popular. But they're setting the ceiling very low, so I don't think it'll get ridiculously expensive anytime soon. So
No, I think there'll be a natural increase, like you said, as demand increases, as the need to fill the seats every week will be less, and then of course the league eventually wants to get teams in the hands of private ownership, and I'm sure they'll be more apt to set their own ticket prices. Hopefully, the league will limit some of the excessive prices, but I still think that with the whole fan friendly mindset, the family friendly mindset that the league has really been promoting last year and into this year, I don't think they'll get too outrageous. No.
Yeah, and I mean,
especially.
Oh, good.
I was gonna say, especially considering that like they're not even selling like in a lot of these for some of these stadiums, they're not even selling like half the actual seating capacity. Like for Ford Field, they have so much room that they can expand. Be that like they can just open up the end zone and still charge similar prices before they really have to worry about upping the cost on the consumer.
Yeah, and they're eventually they're gonna have to face the fact, like I mean, it's still spring football. You're not gonna be able to charge too much more than because there's gonna be a limit to what people are gonna be willing to pay to see in person. So
at least for a couple years, unless you're St. Louis, and then where you can absolutely pack the stands. But Detroit still has an NFL team, and wildly enough, an NFL team that actually looks like they're on the up and up. So it's not even like, are they really though? No, they really are. They really are an NFL team. They're starting to play like it. So they're not going to have to quite the same fervor as St. Louis.
Yeah, never mind Detroit also having a very unique sort of circumstance where literally right next door, there's a baseball game you can catch. So the USFL is definitely going into the most direct head-to-head competition that it'll probably ever experience out of any of its potential markets.
Yeah, to be honest, because I guess so. It'd be one of those things where, like, I guess, what's your flavor today? Do you want to watch some football or watch some baseball?
Well, I mean,
there's
hopefully, if
there's
nothing
2
else,
weeks.
yeah. I mean,
There's 2 weeks where they. Sorry, but
I was gonna say, hopefully, the Panthers are better than the Tigers, so that's a pretty simple question to answer.
Right.
unfortunately, it's only 2 home games. Actually, the first 2, I believe. It's either, I know for sure it is the first game, Sunday, April 30th. So week 3, that for sure there is the going head to head with there'll be overlap. Tigers game will probably be like go an hour into into the Panthers game, and then it's either the 6th or the 13th of May. So either week 4 or week 5. There's that Tigers game again, kind of butting up with the Panthers. So that'll be interesting, especially with them sharing with parking. I'm going to be curious as how that works, but so I don't know this year that so much that the USFL is going to try to do this whole, hey, make a full day of downtown Detroit, go to a Tigers game, and then go to a Panthers game. I don't think that's working out quite like that this year. So they're a little, like you said, a little more direct competition. Gonna be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, although I think that just comes down to how the Illiches receive the Panthers, which, I mean, obviously having competition right next door when the Tigers are already struggling for attendance is not exactly something that I'm sure they want to see.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the one organization that would be least likely to embrace the Panthers coming to town. Like you said, I thought I was looking at the numbers recently for the Tigers, and they were getting like 50% capacity, like 19K of the 40K capacity that Comerica has. So struggling there, then having to have compete with another team in downtown Detroit in the spring. Probably, like you said, probably not making the Illiches too terribly happy.
Yeah, would also make sense why there's virtually no Panthers cross promotion at Red Wings game.
Yeah, that tie in there. So I imagine those two probably are not going to be the friendliest. But at the very least, what'll be nice though is that there won't be any competition with the Pistons or the Red Wings as far as overlap, because sadly enough, neither team are likely to be making any deep playoff runs this year.
No.
Certainly not the Pistons. Red Wings were doing a little better
No.
this year, but I still think they're on the outside looking in, aren't they?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, you see, Yzerman went a little trade crazy at the deadline.
I did see that.
We shipped away all of our actual players for a bunch of draft picks.
Hey, plan for the future. Hopefully it works out. Glad it's not this year, so the Panthers can get established and have a nice little foothold in Detroit. I don't think it'll be too hard. I know that Daryl Johnston wants to see 15K in Detroit. I don't think that's going to be a problem, at least not for the first game. I think that we might be able to kind of bump up 20K. That's my thought, my hope. What do you guys think?
That's definitely doable. Because 20K is about average for a quick lane bowl.
Yep, 22. I think you're looking at right around 19, 22K, somewhere around there. Yep.
Yeah, and the quick lane bowl this year had a pretty suboptimal match and still drew that well. With New Mexico State versus Bowling Green. I don't think it's unreasonable for the Panthers to around 15, 20K, especially to start.
Yeah, especially since it's not going to be the first game of the season, right? So there'll be a couple weeks where the season's going, more than a couple, but what I mean, my point still is the league will be going. We'll finally, get some advertising going and get people aware, of what's going on, because the general public might not care until they start going hard on the advertising. So I think that's pretty doable.
Yeah, week 3 is when, like I said, they'll be kicking off in Ford Field, so they can get a couple wins to start the season. I think start off a little bit better than we did last year. I don't see a problem of hitting that 20K, especially since it's the first time that we've had spring football in Detroit in 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously the Panthers already, they still hold brand recognition here. Even from those 40 years in the grave.
Last professional football team to win a championship for Detroit.
Yeah.
Do it again. 40-year anniversary this year.
Let's go.
I like the symmetry.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and then just coupled with the fact too is that they're practicing in Ipsy. That's kind of cool too. One of the proposed stadium deals in the early talks of moving to Michigan, where they were gonna play at Rainerson at where Eastern Michigan is in Ypsilanti, and so that would have been super interesting to see, but no, was it just announced today or the other day where they're practicing there?
I think we've known
It was
for a
announced with-
minute.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've known for a minute that they were going to be practicing at Rainerson, both the Stars and Panthers, but yeah, I think EMU just put an article out today on their athletic site that the Panthers and Stars were doing that they had a partnership with the USFL for this year. So, yep, they're doing that. Training camp officially starts on Monday, the 20th, and that runs through the 8th of April. So, yeah, they're doing that, I think, the entire time at EMU. I know that there's some renovations being done at Ford Field. I figure they would be done by now, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's running. And maybe they're taking a little extra time. But either way, doing all that with EMU and then the games at Ford Field. I am happy, like you said, Pat, that there were talks about it being, playing the games at Rainierson, and I was so torn on that. I was so torn.
I was very torn on that too. On one hand, it would have been cool,
Yeah.
but like,
Reinerson is not a good stadium, and Ypsilanti is an even worse town.
it's not that bad. But yeah, I'd much rather be in Ford Field for 100%. But Rainerson would have been interesting for sure. It would be kind of cool if I know we talked about earlier today where for now they're closed practices, but it would be kind of interesting if they ever do open them up.
As far as I know, they're doing a little press event on Monday for an hour, but outside of that, and that's just press. That's just
right.
So I know it said unless otherwise announced. So maybe they'll do it. Maybe they'll open and have an open practice or two. I think it'd be great. It'd be another way to really get the market enticed. Because I mean, granted, yeah, Ipsy is not Detroit, but it's not that far, and certainly not that far to expect people to travel. I mean, I'll be traveling farther than that, coming from Jackson to going to the game. So it would be a smart outreach to the community to be able to drum up a little bit more interest outside of the immediate Detroit area. But that's to be seen. So
yeah,
they don't have much. They don't have very long before announcing that. So we should be finding out in the next week or so if they're going to do that. So
right.
holding out hope, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, agreed.
I wish that there was a little more to discuss about the draft. I mean, we certainly will be touching on it probably next week, but the draft was definitely interesting. So I kind of wanted to, prime everybody a little bit. Obviously, if you look on the roster, none of our 58 players were any of the guys that we drafted, which makes perfect sense. It was a players' rights draft. So future rights, if a player ever does end up signing to join with the USFL, the team that drafted them, get the rights. So similar to what you would expect from the NFL, but obviously, if you get drafted by the NFL, you're going to sign to the NFL. You're not going to, get better money.
Yeah.
But at least with the USFL, obviously, players are going to aim for the NFL first, but if that dream doesn't quite work out, like they need a little bit more development, then USFL is a perfect spot, and then they can join their team. So I know people were really, really excited to see Tanner Morgan. Obviously we're not going to see him to start the year, but that was probably my favorite pick.
Yeah, I mean, he was just a very solid quarterback at Minnesota. I think he was under PJ Fleck, so and he was going to have a Michigan connection. He originally committed to Western Michigan before, PJ Fleck decided to go to Minnesota. Isn't that funny how this whole thing works out?
Almost works, little girl.
As a former Central Michigan student, I cannot endorse what the Broncos do.
See, I have a little partiality towards to Western, but
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, and then obviously, I think for me, probably the biggest pick for us has to be our first overall pick that we took, Jarrett Horse out of Michigan State. A very solid lineman who we actually see realistically in a year or two playing for the Panthers. Solid lineman. He's not looking to go drafted, but obviously, UDFAs, he'll probably find his way onto a mini camp at some point. And obviously picking a local guy, guy from Michigan State, a big football school here. This is about as long as of a list of compliments as I can really give to Michigan State, but is what it is.
Hey, he survived Mel Tucker.
Yeah, he went through that.
And he's still looking like he could potentially be an NFL prospect. That says a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and can't forget about City Sow and Gunnar Oaks as well with that local connection. They definitely, because I know Nolan had talked about in an interview, that if there were, players that it came down to choosing between, and one of them had a Michigan connection, that they were going to go that route. I suspect highly that was kind of a similar mindset that the league kind of pushed on Fisher last year with the Shea Patterson pick.
Yep.
But I like these picks a little bit better for us and the Panthers going forward. If we see them, I honestly hope that we never see these guys because they are making it in the NFL. But if they don't, and quite honestly, probably is more likely, I hope we get to see them.
Yeah, I'm sure most teams will end up seeing like one or two guys come through at some point.
Yeah, I'm guessing probably around 75-90% are ones that are going to, at least not be seen this year. I think we'll see a couple this year, maybe even for the Panthers, but by and large part, the draft was interesting. Like I said, I think we can talk a little bit more about it next week, kind of go about it, because I'm sure if anybody listening doesn't know, the draft format, what we're talking about is probably a little confusing. Doesn't make sense. So we'll definitely clarify in the coming episodes.
Yeah,
but I think that is where we might want to end that for this week.
Yeah, I think that's a good lead off. Where we'll good tease for next week. When we'll get further into the draft, and
we'll probably be a little more put together. We just kind of came together a little soon. I threw out the whole, hey, let's record yesterday. So came together a little quick. I had stuff, so I couldn't exactly get an outline done like I was doing for last year. So I'll definitely do that. So we'll be a little bit more prepared next week. shaking out the rust with this episode. So if you stuck with us this far, listen to the whole episode, we appreciate you. So we promise we'll be better next week and going forward.
Absolutely. And let's go Panthers.
Yeah, go Panthers.
Let's hunt.
Yeah.
And don't forget, if you guys are on social media, do follow us. We don't just do a podcast, which, we had in the year. So we still survive. We still exist on social media. You can follow me personally at Cheese Soda. You can follow Jack at, Panthers Claw MI.
Yep, that's what it is.
Pat, you are not on Twitter.
Nope. Well, I do have a personal one, so that I don't use for anything. So,
And then you, of course, can follow Panthers Shadow at USFL Shadow on Instagram and on Twitter. Also, if you do get on Twitter and Instagram, you might want to check our pinned posts on both of those. We are doing giveaways for tickets. So, pair of tickets giveaway on both the Instagram and on the Twitter. We'll be doing this for all of the 5 home games, but right now we just have the giveaways going for the inaugural game, which is a doubleheader of the Panthers and Stars. So make sure, if you want tickets, make sure to go ahead and do the giveaway. That is good until I believe the 3rd. I am having that run, and so right around the time that the rosters are cut down to 54, I will be announcing a winner for the giveaways. And with that, we will leave you.
talk to you next week.